G20 ministers from 35 nations have gathered in India for a 3-day meet. The G20 Environment and Climate Ministerial meeting is taking place in the capital city of the southern state of Tamil Nadu in Chennai. Now, important issues are on the cards, which are climate change mitigation, adaptation and climate finance. During the inaugural ceremony of the G20 meet, in his virtual address to the G20 ministers, Indian Prime Minister talked about how India plays an important role in protecting the environment. He urged the ministers not to forget their duty towards Mother Nature and continue with their efforts to save the environment.
Friends, as I conclude, let me reiterate that we should not forget our duties towards Mother Nature. Mother Nature does not favor a fragmented approach. She prefers Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one earth, one family, one future.
Leaders will focus on key issues of land degradation, biodiversity and deforestation along with blue economy. Ministers have already prepared a fresh bid to finalize deal on climate change. The principles agreed by environment ministers during the conference will be signed off by leaders during a summit in New Delhi in September. Now, this comes just days after leaders faced heavy criticism for failing to agree on a roadmap to reduce the use of fossil fuels, which happened in a meeting in Goa. A joint communique is also expected to be released at the end of the 3-day meeting in Chennai. Now, earlier on Thursday, environment and climate ministers from several G20 countries attended a launch for a multinational private sector-led coalition that would promote resource efficiency and circular economy practices. G20 member countries constitute more than 80% of both global GDP and CO2 emissions. The grouping is also a unique mix of rich and emerging economies. Agreeing on the issue of climate finance would be a difficult task, since developing countries have been asking for more financial assistance. All right, for more on this, we're being joined by our correspondent Siddharth MP to give us further details. Siddharth, some of the important issues on the cards are climate change, mitigation, adaptation, climate finance. Tell us more on what to expect from the talks in Chennai.
Shivan, good afternoon to you. Let me tell you that this is an all-important meeting that is progressing in Chennai. So there are several aspects being discussed. One of them is the key goals for certain countries to be able to reduce their dependency of fossil fuels, net zero carbon. Then in addition to that, there is also a mention of reclaiming forest land. So a lot of forest land in various countries, including in India, are being reclaimed. So India's goal is at least 70% of forest land should be reclaimed. And in addition to that, even the land that is degraded because of mining, there are efforts underway, there are talks underway to ensure that mining degraded land is reclaimed and put to use for various other purposes. Let's also keep in mind that blue economy is a key focus area. Ocean-based economy is something that all G20 nations are looking at because of the fact that all G20 nations are maritime nations. They have their coastal states. So it's important to remember that all nations are focusing on tourism, on fisheries, on maritime trade. They're also focusing on generating energy from ocean-based resources. They're also focusing on the fact that fishing should be a sustainable practice because it is one major source of revenue, but at the same time it is important to keep in mind that fishing should be done in a sustainable manner such that revenues on one side are okay, but at the same time fishing is sustainable and fish catch is okay. At the same time, it has to be ensured that fishing does not happen in the fish breeding season when actually there should be a ban and a stoppage on fishing activities at that point in time.
Siddharth, are we expecting some kind of joint communique or an action plan at the end of the conference, which I think is being expected? What's next in that?
So what we can say now is that deliberations are underway, but communique is something that is happening on a case-to-case basis. So not all groups can reach a consensus about the agenda of discussion, primarily because there are differences between countries and differences between the circumstances that each country faces in their efforts towards climate, environment and sustainability. So each of these countries have a different plan of action, and that is where there needs to be a broader understanding. Everyone agrees upon the broader issues, but the approach, the circumstances that each country faces, the solutions that each one has are very, very different. And that is where India is trying to play a very crucial role in bridging the gap between the G20 nations. When we spoke to the additional secretary in the Department of Forest, Environment and Forests in India, so she told us, this is additional secretary Richa Sharma, she told us very clearly that India is trying to play a bridging role while everyone agrees, all G20 nations and their ministers and representatives agree upon the issues that the world faces. The issue is in the circumstances that each country finds themselves in, be it their economic circumstances, be it their financial circumstances, be it their political circumstances. Each one has to be able to take decisions, and not everyone can take a uniform decision that applies to all nations. So that is where the differences are expected, and we'll have to wait until evening to see whether all these nations are able to reach a consensus and come out with a communique.
All right. Thank you for all those updates, Siddharth. That was Siddharth MP, our correspondent, getting us all the updates from Chennai, where the G20 meet is taking place.